you are not under house arrest, are you?
Well, it's not house arrest, there's police outside my house which checks people who come in and go out. And basically, apart from lawyers and few people, um, uh, if any workers come in, they are picked up, they're put inside jail. If they think there's anyone, who are my supporters or my members of parliament, then they are picked up. So therefore, only lawyers come to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And, very few close people are allowed. Otherwise, I'm quite isolated here.
Understand. Do you expect to remain free, if we can call this free, or do you expect to be arrested in the near future?
Oh, I expect to be arrested. There are over 170 cases, and every day there's some new case that they come up with. Bear in mind that at the age of 70, I didn't have one criminal case. And in the last few months, I have over 170 and growing. I mean, the number is increasing. So I expect that they will arrest me because they are determined that I should be in jail before the elections.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the whole idea is that I should not be competing in the elections because they all know from the opinion polls, from all the surveys, that this party will win the elections in a landslide. And that's why they are determined that I should not be able to campaign and I should be in jail.
Mm-hmm. When you say they, can you name the people or the organizations?
Well, it's the people in power. They are the 12 parties coalition government, but they are backed by the establishment, the military establishment.
Mm-hmm. The last time you were arrested, there was civil unrest, basically. Your supporters were attacking the general headquarters. Do you think this would happen again if you are arrested?
Well, the last time what happened was that they illegally abducted me. It wasn't an arrest because, as the Supreme Court ruled, it was illegal. It was unlawful, my arrest. So that's why I was released. But and so the way they arrested me, abducted me. I mean, they beat up. It was a commando action. Why couldn't the police have come in and arrested me? Why did they need commandos? Then they beat up everyone. They beat up the lawyers. I was sitting inside they beat up the staff of the High Court. And the way they took me as some sort of a terrorist, that was what caused a big reaction. But we claim that the arson that took place, the burning of a few buildings, that had nothing to do with us. We believe that it was all a plan. They were few because for 27 years, my party has never been involved in arson or in this sort of violence. In fact, when I was shot, when 11 of my other people had bullet wounds, even then there was no violence. There was demonstrations, but there was no violence. So we believe that this was planned to dismantle our party. This was a pre-planned thing. That the way they abducted me, they knew there would be a reaction, and they had planned to sort of set fire to certain buildings and then use it to do the biggest crackdown in our history. 10,000 of my workers in 48 hours were put into jail. So that couldn't have been done unless it was planned before. You can't just arrest 10,000 people unless you already had the addresses and numbers and people. So it was all a planned operation.
Will the elections be held in October?
They will only be held in October if they think that my party cannot compete, that it's weakened enough that it cannot compete in the elections. That's the only way they will hold the elections, because they will not take a chance. The people, the establishment who removed me, does not want to see me back in power. So they will do everything to ensure that elections will only be held when they think that we are no longer able to win the elections.
In case you cannot participate in the elections or your party cannot participate, what will you call for then?
No, I think, it's not possible for them to ban the party. I mean, they are definitely going to put me in jail, but they're not going to ban the party. So I feel that in that time, uh, uh, unless they rig the elections, to the point that they make whole the exercise a joke, unless they sort of make a farce of the elections, uh, it will be impossible for them to stop our party from winning, even if I'm in jail.
Mhm. So you think that the elections, if they're held, then your party will win? Is that what you say?
Yes, I think that they will not be able to stop the party from winning.
Mhm.
Because, just from the opinion polls, you can see that the party is way, way ahead of all the parties. And if you go by the last few months by-elections that took place in Pakistan, out of 37 by-elections, my party swept 30 of them.
Mhm.
And this is despite the whole establishment and the government supporting the 12-party coalition. Even
Mhm.
then, we won 30 out of 37.
Mhm. You said recently that when you were in power, you could not bring the powerful under the law. I suppose you meant the military establishment. Um, you were also, in a way, you were also in the beginning relying on the military establishment.
Well,
Um,
look,
was
let,
it necessary or was it a mistake?
let me explain. The military has been in power in Pakistan directly or indirectly for 75 years. Pakistan started as a security state. We had immediately after independence, we had a conflict with India in 1948. And so the reliance on military was always, uh, it was ingrained in our society that, we could not go without the military. So the military, there were three martial laws, direct control of the government. And then, the rest of the time, indirectly, they were still, uh, very powerful. So when I came to power in 2018, I didn't get the help of the military, but they didn't oppose me.
Mhm.
They weren't against me. Right now, the military establishment is actually working to undermine me. But in 2018 elections, they didn't oppose me. We won the elections free and fair. And that is reflected since then, since being out of power, despite the military helping all these 12-party coalitions, we still have won 30 out of 37 elections, by elections. So therefore, in a sense, the army didn't oppose me. But next question is, the role of the military. I think as time has passed, the countries the country must evolve, and it must evolve to a point where you cannot have a situation where an elected prime minister has the responsibility to run the country, and yet he doesn't have the authority. The authority and responsibility in any management system must be in one place. If you separate the two, it's not possible. So in my case, I as long as there was no, whatever I was doing, the army was not concerned. In fact, it went very well, and the army actually helped me in certain areas. In the COVID-19, they provided us great logistics, and we were very successful in dealing with it. But when I wanted to bring the powerful under the law, it's not just that some of the military personnel think they are above law. It is also these two political mafias, two families which have ruled us for 30 years. They also are above law. So what happens is that when you have powerful above law, uh, the country becomes a banana republic. You can
Mhm.
only, the difference between rich and poor countries, elites, is that the rich countries have rule of law and the poor countries don't have rule of law. The powerful are above law in the poor countries. So you have the ruling elites of the developing world robbing the countries, plundering the money of the poor countries and putting them on offshore accounts and in Western capitals. And the poor countries are getting poorer and the rich countries are getting richer, which is why you have the immigrant problem growing. Because countries that don't have rule of law, you have people, they don't have prosperity. And so people move to other countries. So same is the problem with Pakistan, and I failed because the army, when you talk about the army, you actually talk about the army chief. He's all in all. He takes the decisions because, it's not a democracy in the army. So he did not want me to bring the powerful under the law. That's it. I couldn't, I failed.
And what makes you think that you could succeed if you ever get re-elected?
Well, because when my previous government was a very weak government, I had a coalition government with very small